What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActiveMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about divorce, which I really want to finish up with, like beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. It's just divorce though, not divorced. So this is on Netflix now. It has audio description, and I walked with grand trepidation into this film because Netflix seems to choose at random which international content gets audio description, almost like they pull it out of a hat. And they're like, congratulations, you will have audio description. It's never like the ones, they have so many movies done by like real auteurs. And you're like, how do films like Roma, Bardo, and El Conde not have audio description? But this, The Wages of Fear, The Killer Book Club, Nice Girls, like how did those films have audio description? It's baffling. Like the choices, it's like, I don't know what you're doing here, Netflix. Just like randomly selecting. So Divorce was randomly selected to be an international feature that was given English audio description. And I gotta say, I liked it. And I think I was going to. I thought it was going to be like all the other ones where it was just like, what? This does not work. This does not work. The dubbing doesn't work. This has excellent dubbing. I mean, I watched this film and I felt like I was watching an English language film. Like, you can tell a little bit that it's dubbed, but it's not like obnoxious. The actors who did the dubbing did a really nice job. I hate saying that because from perspective of the old me that was like, watch the movies with the subtitles. You're supposed to be taking this seriously. I didn't watch dubbed cartoons. I did like anime. I wasn't that hardcore. I'm like, it's a cartoon. Anybody can be the voice. But yeah, with the actual, when you have an actual actor there to give a vocal performance, I wanted to hear what they had to offer in terms of emotion. And I got a lot of really great international content when I could see that way. Now I get it through dubbing and audio description, but at least I'm still getting international ideas, culture, perspective, just the way, because everything is made sort of in different cultures in different ways. I would have loved, for example, to see RR with audio description because it just has a very different vibe than everything else. So this was really good. It's one of those things where you're like, well, this could have been in America, but it's like, it really couldn't have been, because I don't think Americans would take this seriously. You'd have to really explain. I think this works. This only works if you live in a place where your church matters enough to you to do this, to go through this process. So what this is that you have two people. You have a man and a woman who are the leads of the film, and they have been divorced for quite some time, like a long time. They have been legally divorced by the government, and she remarried a long time ago and actually has another kid with her second husband. So she has two kids. They had her first marriage. They had a kid. It was basically, as you learn, it was why they got married. It was that they had an unexpected pregnancy and then they agreed to get married, and the marriage didn't work out, so they got a divorce. And now their daughter is like 23, So it's been a while. It has been a while, and So she's with somebody else and has been with somebody else for quite some time. She's in a very stable marriage with a very nice guy who's really understanding this whole time of this whole process. And she's got this other kid, and her ex-husband has now finally found somebody that he wants to remarry, and he wants to do it in a church, or her parents wanted it to be in a church. But in the eyes of the church, they're not divorced, so they have to apply to be divorced by the church and have to go through that procedure. And that is what this whole movie is about them explaining and having to go through this nonsense of talking to all these people and go back through their past. And they keep coming up with like, well, maybe he was drunk, and maybe that's they keep having to try to find lies, because it's just not good enough for the fact that when you look at where these two people are / were, you know, they're meeting people who are like, well, can't you just work it out? You know what I mean? In the eyes of the church. And it's like, she has another husband and another kid. Like, what? So in your mind, you think this is still a solvable marriage? Like, this movie had me laughing at how insane religion is. Like, not just specifically one religion, but like I'm seeing this could be any religion. Do you know what I'm saying? It is obviously very specific to what they're talking about by going to a church with one specific religion, and they don't, you know, they're not going to mosque or temple or anything like that. It's aimed, but I could see this being other things. And it's one of those things that you bring up and you're like, is this really it? You know, this is really how absurd it is? Is it somebody would look at this and be like, well, maybe those crazy kids can work it out? And it's like, I don't know. They haven't been like technically together for like forever, like for 15 years or something like that. It's like, what do you mean? Like, they've been living completely separate lives with other people. I mean, they've been having, obviously both of them have had sex outside the marriage. I mean, she has an entire child outside the marriage. So what is it that the church is trying to save here? And what would that even mean for the second marriage / her other child? It's just bonkers. And I was oddly captivated by all of the things that kept happening. I was like, I can't believe that this is what this movie is. The whole movie is this. The whole movie is basically them having to constantly jump through another hoop and meet with somebody else, and then they have to try to find a witness for something, and they're like, can you find... It's not a very long movie. It's like an hour and a half. So it's sort of a comedy, but it's also sort of like a nightmare satire in another way. However you want to look at it. Audio description was pretty well done, especially compared to Wages of Fear, which I did not like. That was TTS. I did not like it. Somebody was surprised that I said that, because they're like, well, Netflix doesn't really use TTS. And I was like, it's fucking TTS, I promise you. And I got it validated. And I'm like, yep, that's TTS. It's like, yep, I told you. And I was not a huge fan of the audio description on Nice Girls, or Killer Book Club for that matter, which was done by, I remember Diffused did that. I can't remember who did Nice Girls, but it did not blow me away. So this has not been, their random selection of titles has not been working out for me. Finally, they picked one where I actually enjoyed it. I have not had the privilege of watching anything that seems aimed at like the Oscars. So I guess at this point of me watching Divorce, this would be the best international feature I've seen this year. Mainly because the other ones that I've seen were not good. Were not handled well. So yeah, I enjoyed the awkwardness of it. I enjoyed the I can't believe this is happening of it. I thought the dub performances really actually helped bring out the characters, which is rare that you find dub actors who actually understand what it is that they're reading and don't overdo it. A lot of times you get like the over exaggeration. You get actors who feel like they're like, they're from the cast of, they're from the show Barry, and they're in like Henry Winkler's acting class, and they're not good. They're not the ones that you remember, where he was like propping up Barry to like go on and be a success. They're like, no, it's the other kids that were in that class. It's the ones who didn't have a future, who somehow found their way into dubbing acting. That's how it feels a lot of the time. And then it gets also kind of problematic because then you start dubbing these incredibly sort of white suburban sounding voices into films that are coming out of like Central and South America. And you're like, that's not what those voices should sound like, or Asian, countries and stuff. And are we just whitewashing films? Is that what it means to dub now? Because one of the benefits of being in America is the fact that we actually have people of many different races and ethnicities within our own country. We should be able to find people who don't sound like they're the complete opposite of what's on screen. So yeah, this is a European, so the cast sounds appropriate, and it all sounds like they're fully committed to actually doing as good of a voice performance as they possibly can. And the audio description I thought was done well enough that I felt like it was well supported. So I ended up liking the movie that I didn't think I was going to like, when I was like, oh God, it's another one of those. It's another random, but I'm going to keep supporting this because I have to create a metric for Netflix that says we want this. So I have to encourage people to go on there and click on it and say, yes, please watch this international content. I started watching Jeong-sung Creature simply because it was another international show that had audio description. And I just wanted to create the metric that shows Netflix that somebody out there is blind and is using the English audio description track on an international product. Because if they keep creating it but nobody's using it, then they may never create it again. And it pisses me off that I can't see Roma and Bardot and El Conde and some of those auteur oriented films. So I want that to stop. I want them to feel encouraged to put audio description on films, maybe even retroactively go back and put it on those films. So move Netflix in the right direction. And the only way to do that is to, sadly, is to watch all this content, regardless of what it is that's being thrown at me. So, but I actually like Divorce, so I would actually recommend it. Is it perfect? No, it's very weird. You have to completely accept that this is how church works. And as an American, it's really hard to accept that. As somebody, like, I don't go to church 24/7, but even for the church that I used to have in my life, I'm like, I can't imagine this would be a thing. So I don't even know whose church this would be a thing for, but it just sounds insane. But then again, I was talking to somebody the other day about Rosh Hashanah, and they were talking about how their temple sells tickets to Rosh Hashanah, and I was like, what? Concept, just as somebody who grew up in Christian denominational churches, I was like, what? Excuse me? There's a price of admission? I mean, we pass around a tray, which you can just pass along. You don't have to put anything in it. Yeah, the concept just kind of blew my mind. So this was kind of blowing my mind too. I was like, I would have walked out. I'd just been like, you know what? There are other churches. We'll get married in those. It cannot be that important to seek the approval of these people, to stay married in like a Catholic church or whatever it is that they're trying to do here. I'm assuming it's the Catholic Church because they call the Vatican at some point in the thing, and there isn't like another church of the Vatican, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no other reason to call the Vatican. So, that sealed the deal for me. At first, it was sort of like nebulous. I was like, well, what kind of church is this? And then I was like, okay, well, it's Christian. It seems Christian. We're doing Christian stuff here. It's not a temple. Okay. So I was like, well, this could be, maybe this is like a Greek Orthodox type thing. No? Okay. The Vatican. I know where we're at. You know? Like as soon as they say the Vatican, you're like, okay, I get it. But still, for a church that is responsible for what they're responsible for, I would think that they would be a little bit more amenable to people's concerns. That's it. Divorce. I think you should watch it, but it's up to you. It is international. It's dubbed. So depending on how you feel about that, if you're sighted, you can watch it with, just subtitles. And I don't know what that experience is like for you, but I assume it's probably fine. So I like the movie. I thought it was interesting. It was intriguing. And it's a cute movie. It would never work here because people would never accept this. They can't remake this. It'd be so hard to convince people of this format, of this, to see people going through leaps and bounds of getting divorced through a church after they've been legally divorced for 15 years. They'd be like, just go to another church, man. Just get married somewhere else. I feel like that's the American vibe, would just be like, I don't know, it can't be that important. So I'll give Divorce I'm gonna give it a B. It's the highest grade I've given any of these films this year. So yeah, I was a little stretching my imagination to wrap my head around the concept, but I get that with international content. I get that it's different perspectives, it's different, all that kind of stuff. So cool. I'm here for it. And you should be too. And we need to watch international content on Netflix to get them to dub more of it. So audio describe more of it, really, not dub. But dubbing comes with audio description. So that's it. That's my quick review of Divorce. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.